Paweł Spławski. I'm a partner in Deloitte office in Warsaw, and I'm responsible for the services to the CFO. So basically, the whole financial leaders here on our market. Let me perhaps start with a short introduction of the, let's say, concept of trust and division the trust into four elements, which we think are crucial, let's say, from the point of view of discussion here. As Deloitte at the beginning of the COVID time, we prepared, let's say, the report dedicated to trust, and we divided this trust into four elements: physical trust, financial trust, digital trust, and emotional trust. Together with my guests, I will not touch all the stakeholders today, but I will rather try to concentrate on the relation of employer and employees, because I think they are the most affected right now and the most interesting as it comes from our discussion. And I would like to ask my guests for the short introduction, for introducing themselves before we go to the discussion. Jonathan, will you start, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Berry. I am Managing Director at Goldman Sachs. I'm head of the operations teams, and I'm also head of the office, the Warsaw office for Goldman Sachs. I've been at the firm for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. The next person who is involved in our discussion is Agnieszka Kosik. Agnieszka?
Good afternoon. My name is Agnieszka Kosik. I'm head of Poland at Facebook, and I work in the advertising business for almost 30 years now.
Thank you very much. Peter, will you be next, please?
Absolutely. A very good afternoon, everybody. Peter Mitchell. I'm coming from Ireland. I'm living in Poland the last 2 years. I have 23 years experience in shared services. I'm running the GBS Center in Krakow for ABB. And I also have finance operations responsibility across Europe.
Thank you very much. We also have Arkadiusz Rudzki with us. Arek, can you please do the short introduction?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Arek Rudzki from Skanska Commercial Development Europe. I'm responsible across Central Eastern Europe for leasing and sales and the relationship with our key clients. I'm with Skanska since 2012. And quite a lot of years in the business.
Thank you very much. And we come to Judyta Sawicka. Judyta, please also introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Judyta Sawicka, and I work for Global Worth. We are a leading CE office investor, and we have offices located in major Polish cities and in Bucharest. I am leading a great legal team in Warsaw, and we are responsible for transactions and legal aspects of our business and our operations.
Okay, thank you very much. So perhaps I will, let's say, ask you the first opening question, because I believe we all see that current pandemic times affected, the relation between employer and employees. Can you please share your experience? What was the effect, and let's say what happened since the lockdown, which we had on the 13th of March? Can I ask Jonathan, you to start?
Sure, thanks. Well, when it comes to trust, I think what has been interesting has been the pivot from managing people within sight to managing people away from you. And I think a lot of the inbuilt management practices that we have tended to be kind of almost by osmosis or designed around managing people that are visible to you. So from a trust perspective, I think the pandemic has challenged people with regards to both the relationship from a manager and also from an employee. Can managers trust that their employees are doing what they should be doing, and equally can an employee trust that the managers in the firm have their kind of full intent at heart, if you see what I mean. So what do I mean by that? From a management point of view, I think you have to start from a position of trust. I think you have to assume that people are going to do the right thing, but at the same time, you also have to kind of trust but verify. Particularly, in financial services where there's a lot of data, a lot of opportunity. It's very important that you trust but verify. You have to trust that people are doing what they should be doing, but equally, you have to have controls and balances in place to try and make sure that's the case. And I think when people are in the same room, people working together, it's a lot easier to do. When people are working, at distance, it's important to kind of identify the things you can use to manage that. And, for us, it's been things like, looking at output. I think looking at output is probably one of the starting points for how you can do that. And as Scott was mentioning earlier on presentation, in the financial services industry, when we had lockdown, due to volatility, volumes went through the roof. We were dealing with 7 times our normal volumes in some flows. And yet people were able to deal with that, work hard and get stuff done. But people were able to deal with those volumes and manage those volumes. And that indicated to us that, in actual fact, people could work from home very easily. We went from 99% of people in the office, 99% of people at home in 1 day or 2 days. And yet we dealt with 7 times our volume during that period. So that was an important kind of benchmark, as a starting point in terms of, can we trust the process and can we trust people? And I think that got everyone off to a good start. But then equally over time, that adjusts as well, because, that was an employee base that, had all been at the firm and had all worked in the office. Since then, we've added 150, 200 employees probably over that period who all have a different experience and starting from a different place. And equally from an employee perspective, their experience of the lockdown has been difficult as well. So do they trust the firm to, understand that they suddenly have different responsibilities for caring for elderly or caring for children who aren't at school or things like that? So, the trust relationship goes both ways. And I think, all participants have had to kind of learn to adjust and learn to empathize and learn to kind of communicate or communicate even more so in order to make sure that those lines of trust continue to be open.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. Judita, as you're coming from totally different sector, I would guess less transactional, more, let's say, based on the B2B relations. Can you also please share your point of view on that?
Of course. So you ask about the change, and the biggest change is exactly in front of us. We cannot meet in person on a professional event. We are doing an online panel. And you also mentioned that trust is specifically important in a relation between employer and employee. And I totally agree with that. In current difficult times, and trust within an organization is crucial. Companies need to adapt. We need to change or improve the way we operate. And the companies need very often to take tough decisions. And we need employees to trust that the decisions the companies and their leaders are making are moving the company in the right direction. So because only with this trust, we will have the employees working towards the same direction. And it's equally important to have a good cooperation between the teams. We are human beings, so we collaborate better with the ones we trust. And trust means more engaged teams and more loyal employees. At the same time, as Jonathan mentioned, we see that building a connection is so much more difficult right now. And it requires, with virtual teams, it requires much more effort, much more time and attention, especially on side of managers. So we need to make sure that our people are well informed, not feel isolated, they feel valued, so that we can have a well-functioning, engaged and collaborative teams.
Okay, thank you very much. Arek, you are actually coming from the construction industry. I wonder, whether you trust today to such extent your employees that you also went into home office mode.
Yes, it's very interesting because our industry, the construction industry, is quite special. We couldn't stop the construction site, obviously, even during the lockdown. So obviously the trust is there that people were coming and none of our projects has been delayed due to the lockdowns, which is great. So it means that we can trust our people on the construction side, but also we need to trust our people who are working from home. And I think I can build on this what has Judita said, because for me the trust is very connected with the engagement. If there is no trust, there is no engagement among the teams, among the people. So companies need to prove that they trust the employees, even in such a difficult times when you need to combine from working from home everything, your daily job, your daily duties, homeschooling, and the other things. Of course, there is a big question mark about the efficiency of the things which are getting done. But once the company proved that it's trusted and the leaders are trusted, this is very much envisaged in the engagement of the employees, and then the all processes which needs to be done are done on time. It takes longer, we all know that, because it's very much more complicated than it used to be, especially taking into consideration this way of communication that we're experiencing now, talking to the computer or over the computer between ourselves. But I think this is the very difficult time for leaders. So for the leaders need to find their own way how to be trusted in these difficult times, because everyone needs to find his own way how to cope with the team, how to cope with the duties, and how to really show the leadership, and then the people will follow and will trust and will be engaged. And I think this is something essential right now.
Okay, thank you very much. We will come back definitely to the leadership styles and let's say how it was affected by COVID. But before we go that, I would like to ask Peter to perhaps share his point of view. Global Business Service Organization is, I would say, quite specific. Peter, what trust means for you? Is there a trust which we, let's say, were discussing with Judita and Jonathan and Arek?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, trust, it's such a small word, but means a lot. And, you build up a relationship with people and, I think it was just mentioned that you trust the ones you work close with or that you kind of know the best. It takes 20 years to build up trust in business, and it could be gone in 20 seconds. And I want to talk more about integrity and about, the openness and honesty. I think that's always going to be the foundation for trust. I'm very open about my views. I do not trust everybody. I do not pretend I trust everybody, but I think being too trustful is irresponsible as a leader. I think, Jonathan mentioned trust but verify, trust but validate. Absolutely. We need to have, from an integrity and compliance perspective, all the checks and balances in place, particularly in financial services, to ensure that in a large community of shared services, that things are working and that's, we can actually sleep at night. To trust people off the bat, there's so many new people coming into the industry, all different kind of generations. And, it would be kind of irresponsible, like I mentioned, to trust them from day one. You need to build up that relationship, and it's a two-way street. And, the world has changed so dramatically, and it's the first time in history that we can all relate to something together. And we're in this together. So there's kind of this hidden trust that we'll survive this and we'll get through it. But we should never kind of forget this openness and honesty. I mean, we talk about financial trust, emotional trust, digital trust, and physical trust. And, without that honesty, none of those would be possible. If people will be affected by this, by losing their jobs, which is happening, has happened to very close friends of mine, the last thing you should do is not tell them, on time and help them through that change curve. So it's all about this honesty that needs to be there as well. Of course, we have young people in the organization just out of university, and they need a bit of hand-holding, now virtual hand-holding, which is even more difficult. So there's a huge strain on leaders, and not everyone is equipped to be able to lead in this very unusual situation. So we have to help them. So it's quite exhaustive, but like I said at the beginning, being open and honest, and also telling the people that, we are working on the leadership style and putting the right tools and the right training in place, is also showing how empathetic and how open we are and that's this is new for all of us. So we kind of have to work together. Collaboration, for sure, absolutely. Without it, we would not exist. But we have to work on trust, and we always have to work on trust, especially now.
Okay, thank you very much. Agnieszka, would you be able to comment on the statement "trust but verify" or "trust but validate"? What is your point of view? Let's say, what is your approach?
My approach is I'm starting with the trust to people, and I'm verifying what is happening, because that's my style. I truly believe, exactly like the previous speakers, that trust is connected to engagement. Trust is definitely connected and built through the integrity, openness, honesty. But for me, for now, a part of it, the most important is communication and care. Communication, and it also builds the trust from manager's point of view. Clear and transparent communication, and definitely care. We have also at Facebook such a sentence that, first of all, understand, then empathize, and connect. And this is the most important, and this is what I'm focusing on when I'm working with my teams, when I'm collaborating with the different teams inside and outside company. This is the most important thing, and I truly believe that the trust it's the future proof of the company, how productive we will, how efficient and effective we'll be. Coming to this point, we just, I think last week, we showed the prediction for the future about the trust, but about what has changed between employer and employee. And Pavel, if you would like to hear, we have 5 predictions on it. I can also share it during the discussion, but I don't want to steal it now.
Okay, so let's come back to that. This is very interesting, actually. But before we go there, just a short question about home office work, because, Facebook is an icon for digital world. What does home office mean for you? Is it any change?
It's change about environment, but okay. Definitely, as the previous speaker were talking, we moved to the home office in one day. On 13th of March, we were in the at home working, and it was business as usual. Almost as usual, because it is new normal, as working from home, not for everybody is so convenient. So we need to deal with a lot of things. It's when the personal life and business life are very close to each other, and this is very important to find the border in between it, and it's very difficult and it's blurring. So it's not a problem to move to home, it's a problem how to organize your life from home. Not business life, because business life is going on in case of Facebook. It's when we have the computer and we have the access, everything is working. But the case is about then staying home, have no relationship, having relationships, but not the real one, taking care about family, your relatives, and organize it all around you. And this is, I think, the biggest stuff. And after some time, people having the mental issues or the psychological problems. And this is what we now need to take care on. It's not only a business. This is more and more about people. I would say most about people and their well-being and their mental health. Because if they are happy, if they are in right condition, then business will go. But the business will not go. Okay.
Thank you very much for the comments. Actually, before we go further, I just wanted to remind that on the webpage, there is a possibility to leave your questions to the participants. So if you have any questions that arise during the discussion, please feel free, let's say, to ask them, to put them on the webpage. Now I wanted to come back to the element which was already mentioned, at least. I think Arek spoke about leadership style and basically the impact that we currently see on the leadership style. Could I ask you, for commenting this element, because this is also very important, how the leaders build the trust and how the leaders behave, let's say, and present as credible partners. Judita, if I may this time ask you as the first to comment that.
Sure. So I think, as it was already mentioned by Peter, that we were not all equipped for the changes that we are now facing. And we are all learning how to manage virtual teams and how to manage companies which basically overnight switched from the office life to home office life. And office is serving usually as an information hub. Now it is the managers and leaders' responsibility to be such information hub for the employees. And, a lot of benefits of the office life is off the table right now. You cannot gather a team to brainstorm and quickly solve a problem. It's like dropping by someone's room to clarify a topic, going to lunch to get to know a new colleague. And of course, there are ways and tools to compensate that virtually. But these are just not perfect substitutes, and it is difficult to reproduce the face-to-face connection in the virtual world, and especially if we have home office at this scale. And what we are seeing in our organization when we are discussing with our employees is a huge change of attitude to home office. So at the beginning, people were welcoming more warmly home office and the flexibility it gave. But after some time and after a few months, they are actually missing their office life. And people miss the division between the professional and personal life. They miss social interactions. They miss professional connections. And without it, and without the division, without the work time, the private time, employees very often feel overwhelmed and depressed. And we also see this as a big problem on managerial, but also on personal level. That's why we are thinking about and we're preparing well-being programs for our employees to take care of them, to show them that they are valued, and as a managers, we really need to stay connected with employees, and we really need to know what is happening with them, and if they are feeling well and taken care of. So I fully agree that the most important topics are connection and care for the employees.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Jonathan, as you operate, in a large scale business center, does it, the situation look differently from your perspective? How to build, the connection if you manage 300 people, 500 people, and so on?
It's very interesting, actually. I think the points made around building connections and linking up with people, are the same on whatever scale. And it might be a little bit controversial. I don't actually think the skill set of being a good manager has necessarily changed. And what I mean by that is, if you went to a book about what being a good manager is, the bullet points would all be the same. But what the means of discharging those bullet points, and those skills, I think have changed enormously, because, when we're all in the office, we used to do it by, symbiotic, kind of relationships, walking around, having those communications. They all happen naturally and without anyone necessarily trying. I think now you have to be a lot more prescribed and a lot more precise about what you do. And also you need to be a lot more, number of things talking about in terms of health and well-being and things like that. Again, when you're seeing someone for 8 hours a day in the office or around the office, you can pick up on those things. When you maybe have a catch up with someone, via Zoom or whatever, once a week or however often, it's a lot harder to identify those. So you have to be much more prescriptive about what you do and how you do it. But at the same time, you can't let the personal element go as a part of that. So I think it is important to share who you are, what you're doing, how it's impacting you, allow people to understand that, as a leader, you are as vulnerable as they are, you are as impacted as they are by these circumstances. And share your kind of experience and let people in. And I think that helps, build that level of trust and that level of communication between you. Even if you're sending out, I now send out a regular email to the whole office, which I never did before COVID. I kind of didn't feel it was necessary. Now I send one out on a regular basis, and I put in snapshots of what I've been up to and what my family have been up to, and other things, as well as kind of cascade information around the office, because it just helps, I think, connect people and show that you're there and show that you're having a similar experience. But again, it is around, it's the same things you're trying to do. You're trying to manage people's productivity. You're trying to manage people's welfare. You're trying to manage how engaged they are and what they're doing, their growth and their opportunities and their careers. Those kind of building blocks are all the same. But the way in which, as a manager, you can actually build that is just a lot harder. And vice versa, from a consumer perspective, if you're the employee, you don't have those opportunities to have that little conversation as well, and there's other things. So you have to kind of force those opportunities or create those opportunities. And even then, look, I think we're all admitting, it's funny, I started on calls. I think the last time we had an ABSL kind of meeting, everyone was, the world of work has completely changed. We'll never go back to the office. I think 6 months later, we want to go back to the office. We've had enough of this. But having said that, different functions have different shapes. If you're working in engineering and you spend a lot of your time with your head down coding, actual fact, working at home is great because there's no one disturbing you. But if you're in a different function where you are, interacting with clients, or you're working together on a problem, or solving kind of issues, like in an operations environment, having people around you is a very much more positive kind of environment to work in. So I think, we're going to have to keep adapting to some of these things. But I think as a manager, you have to just, try a lot harder, be more prescriptive, and a lot more thoughtful in terms of how you try and discharge those things that you used to do naturally.
Okay, thank you very much. Arek, a question for you. As you mentioned that home office, let's say, for the construction is not fully possible, is the management style affected then? We can't hear you. If you could please unmute.
Sorry, the most famous sentence of the 2020. You are muted. Sorry, guys, for that. Obviously, you need to adjust your leadership style to the environment you work with. Obviously, once you are on the construction side and you're managing the construction and the people who are on the construction side, there's not so much to change. You need to take care, obviously, about the well-being and the mental health of those guys, because they're also going through the tough times at homes and also at work, when the things are more complicated. Obviously, once you're managing the team who is spread across different countries and sitting at home, trying to put the things together and dealing with the client, then as Jonathan said, there is much more requirements for us as leaders to be able to run the business. And I think it's also about the creating your own toolbox, kind of a toolbox which you will be able to manage your teams. And it's no one is perfect, and I think we all know this, and that's why we shouldn't be try to pose for someone who are not as leaders. We are working from home, so there's a home environment around us, and some people are likes it. Some people prefers to work from the office, and I'm really glad to hear that and see a majority of us is sitting in the office, which is great for me as an office developer. It's a great news. So fingers crossed for more, putting back people into offices. And this is very, very symptomatic, I think. We are missing the other people. It's not about missing an office as such, we're missing other people, and also that's why we need to. And it will stay with us for longer. I think it will be a hybrid work for going forward. So it's going to be work from office. It's going to be work from home. As Jonathan said, for some of the skill set, it's better to work from home when no one is disturbing you. But when you are working in the team, we're working on the project, it's essential to have the people around, to have a brainstorming, to be able to run with the decisions quickly or challenge yourselves, which is not always the case over the video. And also there will be another trend, which is work near home, because some like 15 minutes range from home. So you can go out from home, reach out to the office or to the flex office you have near your house, sit down, plug in your computer, and feel as you're at work. But at the same time, you are close to your home, and you can put it together. So with this, every single solution which we are talking about, which I have just described, you need to adjust your leadership style because they're completely different. And I think it's very much on us as leaders right now, the huge responsibility to also to bring to the companies or equip the companies and the managers and the people working in the companies with a new skill sets, how to deal with this uncertain environment and very much changing quickly, rapidly world around us. So we're doing well, I think, but this is not the end. We need to improve.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter, actually, we can see on your camera that, yes, you are in fact sitting in the office. So this is, let's say, the good news for Arek on one hand.
Fancy living room, yeah.
Okay. But on the other hand, is it leading by example? Is it your preference? Is it your conscious decision to be with people in the office? Or perhaps, vice versa. So is it this way of verification?
To the office. But can you hear me?
Yes, right now, yes. We had some technical problems, but right now it's okay.
Okay, good. So I was saying that, yes, I am indeed in the office, and it is lead by example. I myself and the leadership team decided to keep the office open. I mean, that famous Friday the 13th, it's almost like a tidal wave of change that hit us, and it's the day that the world, or at least here, stood still, and we had people running out of the building almost. But we kept it open despite closure of the schools and all the rest, because with 2,000 people and 40 different nationalities, you have everything you could imagine from a community. People that are very lonely, they had not the opportunity to go back to their home countries. They wanted to be in an office environment so that they could also interact with certain people, so more from a collaboration and obviously to help them emotionally as well. It doesn't work for everybody, but definitely that opportunity we have kept, and we've been very closely monitoring the situation and put a lot of measures in place to keep it a safe place. But interestingly enough, when we do surveys to find out how people are feeling and how they are getting through this change, and we have done a few pulse checks over the last 6 months, actually trust came up as one of the big topics. It's trusting each other in the office environment. So it's around the etiquette and the discipline. And it's also trusting the general population when you're using public transportation and getting to and from. And if that trust is low, which it is, even if we have studies that show us that it's quite okay, then of course that also is something to be looked at and to be questioned, right? So I mean, I kind of have been living in a bubble if I'm to compare myself maybe to others, because I've stayed in the office, and I was even asked on a workshop this morning, Peter, you seem to always be in the office. So how many days have you not been in the office over the last 6 to 8 months? And I said about 4 days. One was with a toothache. One was, so I could count it on one hand. But it is, I'm the type of person who gets the energy from other people, being on camera today or being on Blue Jeans or Zoom in front of hundreds or even up to 1,000 people. Yeah, it doesn't really do it for me. I've had to adjust my leadership style. And I'm with Jonathan. The ingredients are the same, right? The ingredients but we're baking a different cake today. It's a little bit sweeter. It might be a little bit, less sweet, but we have to use more grams of patience and definitely more grams of listening, right? So we have to adjust those competencies and the quantity of those competencies as leaders. And I can tell you, exhausting. It is exhausting. The amount of effort that's gone in through this pandemic or caused by this pandemic, I would say for most leaders, if they are really on top of things and working through this and being there for the people and making the change happen and making informed decisions, I would say 20% on top of their business obligations. And I'm maybe being even a little bit conservative on that number. So, it's blurry. I mean, the differentiation between private and professional, that line is long gone. And I'm hoping it comes back someday so that we can refocus.
Okay, thank you very much. And perhaps, very detailed question. Did you try to, let's say, ask your employees whether management being in the office builds trust or increase trust of the employees?
It's a great question. I'll ask it tomorrow, actually. No, we haven't asked that specific question, but we are also not forcing people to come back to the office. So this is allowing people to make their choice, highly recommending to do home office. And by doing that, by keeping that as the going in position, more and more people have over the months come back because they are hearing that it's safe and it's word of mouth. But it's a great question.
Okay, thank you very much. Agnieszka, actually, I just wonder, how your management style or how management style in your company changed, in this digital world to increase the trust of the employees or increase the trust in the relation between employer and the employees. If you could please share your views.
Yes, of course. First of all, it's, as I said, it's about much more clarity in communication because you are on seeing each other. I mean, the body language, like on the real meeting or even communicating without words, it's not existing. You need to put everything into the words. As I said, and I totally agree with Jonathan, you need to be more precise. You need to have more clarity in communication. And this is very demanding. I mean, I'm using a lot of words when I'm talking, but especially now I need to take care which words and how I'm using, because I cannot just easily check how I was understood, because this check you have on your face in front of the person you are sitting. Through the camera, it's not so easy. So definitely communication, and I got this feedback, communication, clarity and transparency, and over communication. I was not a fan on over communication because people were talking to me, Aga, remember, but today it's not so easy. So the second mantra for me is frequency and over communicating, reminding and taking care that people know what to do, how to do, when they need help, support them, and so on. So over communicating as a manager that you are here also to help, and you are here taking care about everything as a support. And I think the last thing I'm back to it. It's understand, empathize, and connect. This is about each person and how it influenced me. I'm not canceling at all my one-to-ones. I'm doing everything. I can move it in the calendar, but I'm not canceling it. Sometimes in real life, I was like talking to people, okay, can we skip that one today because I have something to do. Today, skipping it at all. I can move, but I'm not skipping. I'll try to be connected. I realized that in my calendar over the week, it was the 38.5 hours of meetings. Then I, of course, said it's too much. And I had to rework my calendar a little bit and change some stuff. But this is the most important, to stay with them, because then I know what's going on. And this is the most important today. I will be not going back to the mental mental health and well-being. But I would like to say you will find it also on Newsroom on Facebook. But I would like to say about the study which were done by Oracle. It's like about this oxygen mask in the in the aircraft that first put on yourself and then assist your children or the others. And the study by Oracle's surveyed on 12,000 workers from 11 countries, with over 3,000 being the C-suite executives. And you know what occurred? That the findings were the executives are suffering from mental health issues along with the rest. It's definitely the same. So 71% executives says that it was the most stressful year for them at work, the most stressful year. 53% is saying that they struggled with mental health. And we know that the link between employee well-being and organizational profitability is very strong. So I truly would like also to say to all of you, but to all us as managers, take care of yours first, because then you can help the others.
Arek, I saw that you wanted to comment on that. If you could please just briefly, because we are running short of time.
Yes. It's a very interesting discussion, and one thing popped up in my head. So, like my own experience, obviously, I think it's about the culture of feedback, because we talk a lot about the feedback and how open we should be, how we are giving and receiving feedback in the organization. But right now, to strengthen the leadership style, I think we as leaders need to be much more open for feedback and seeking for this feedback much more than before. Once we are very much digitally connected right now, as Agnieszka said, it's not easy to read on people's faces or the body language what they think and what they feel. So it's much more important now to really seek for feedback from the others, to double check if we have been properly understood, how the people feel, if they feel treated well, and do they have any issues and problems, how we can help with them, and so on and so on. And also, this is encouragement, I would say, also for them. So just a small addition from my end. Okay,
so I would like to ask you just for one summary statement, whether that there is, let's say, trust currently, and whether we can, let's say, what we can do or what should we take care of to increase the trust in the relation we are talking about, so in the relation with the employees. Arek, will you be able to start?
Yes. With trust, I think that the trust will be strengthened once we will come back to the office and to the very nice offices we have developed and you guys have. Because it was a lot for many years about war for talent, and people have been looking for the greatest work environment for the place to work. And I think it's also to show the trust to the employees. It's about preparing for them the best possible work environment. Either it's going to be office, or either it's going to be the home office, or it's going to be other way of collaboration. It's about taking care and preparing and encouraging people to go back to work, because I think this is also our responsibility today, to offer them something what they do not have at home. And then people will very welcome going back to the office, because you want to go there somewhere where you can get more than you have at home.
Okay, thank you very much. Jonathan, one sentence summary.
I think trust goes both ways between an employer and employee, but I do think in this environment, if you can show yourself to be a good employer, then it will stand you in very good stand for a long time to come. You know, if you can stand up when times are tough and prove yourself, then people will follow you forwards.
Okay, Judita?
Trust is a mutual relationship. If you show trust, then you can be trusted. So you need to be open, transparent, communicate, and connect.
Okay. Agnieszka?
Can I say two sentences?
Go ahead.
First of all, I truly think as you are saying, but I will add into it how to build the trust and how to keep the trust. To add vulnerability, it's definitely helping to manage and get the right feedback, get the open, honest feedback. So vulnerability, a part of it, a part of Connect, and resilience. This is the second word, which is in my head, all when I'm talking to people, when I'm leading. And the second sentence is, I encourage you to come to the Facebook newsroom and see the predictions, 5 predictions, what will happen in the future, in the relationship, in the company, with technology, without so on and so forth. This is really nice stuff just put on a web last week.
Okay, thank you very much. And Peter, closing sentence from your side?
From my side, we started with a thematic question. Trust, is that the new currency for business services or for business? The answer is no, from my perspective. People are the hard currency and always have been the hard currency. They are the biggest asset. We should be super proud of our people and what they have achieved over this very, very unprecedented time. And with that, the trust is coming. It takes time, but I think the foundation has been laid. And I was saying to the panelists before we got on live air that speaking of trust, this one is a tricky one. But one of the politicians, one of the ministers in Ireland, was televised yesterday on Irish television, and was addressing the public of Ireland, explaining that, dear kids, do not worry, Santa Claus will come this year. You can trust on that because he wrote to us and he has everything under control. Just make sure you keep your social distance and go to bed early on Christmas Eve. So if we can trust that, then I believe we can trust anything.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to all the participants.
Thank you.
Thank you.